The Singapore Grand Prix is here, and with it comes a chance for Red Bull to wrap up the Constructors' Championship, which sounds even more insane now I've said it out loud. It would require Verstappen to put in a performance at a track that he has historically struggled at. There are changes to the track this year though, not that it will help the drivers much who are in for a very tough weekend. Mercedes were optimistic about their chances this weekend, but could the changes ruin any hopes of a race win? Today, I'm going to fill you in on what to expect from this weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, so don't go anywhere. After this weekend's Grand Prix at the Marina Bay circuit, there'll be 7 races left in the season, but Red Bull could have the Constructors' Championship title wrapped up. That is a reflection of just how dominant they've been this season. Max is the runaway leader of the Drivers' Championship, and Checo is back in form and scoring big points. Ahead of Singapore, Red Bull are on 583 points in the Constructors' Championship, 310 ahead of second-place Mercedes, and with Ferrari another 45 behind. After this Sunday, there are 7 Grand Prix, plus 3 sprint races, so 353 points will be up for grabs. If Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 353 points or more following the Singapore Grand Prix, they will be champions. The math is relatively simple because Red Bull must finish 1-2 to have any chance of securing the Constructors' title. That result would give Red Bull 43 points, so they're relying on Mercedes to not score points in order to reach the 353-point lead they require. Should Max Verstappen or Sergio Perez get the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race, which they probably will, then 1 point for Mercedes would give Red Bull the championship. But it seems unlikely that Mercedes will score no points at all. They haven't been on the podium for 4 races, but they have been scoring plenty of points. I'll come back to Merck later though, who seem to think that Singapore will be their best race of the year. That was before the track changes though. Verstappen is on his way to a 3rd driver's title as he holds a 145-point advantage over Red Bull teammate Perez. Verstappen cannot win the championship in Singapore, but could mathematically do it in Japan if he continues his dominance this weekend. The Dutchman will need to leave the Japanese Grand Prix, which takes place the week after Singapore, with an advantage of 180 points or more. He will secure the title. Unless Perez has 2 underwhelming weekends, the most likely destination Verstappen will become a 3-time world champion is at the Qatar Grand Prix, a race earlier than he did in 2022. Before we can turn our attention to that though, there is a Singapore Grand Prix that needs to be raced, and historically, this has been a pretty tough race for Verstappen. He's never actually won here before. He finished 8th, 7th, 6th, 3rd and 2nd, and had a really unlucky DNF in 2017, courtesy of the Ferraris of Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen. You can catch the replay of that lap 1 incident on every single Singapore Grand Prix highlight reel. Max's lack of victories at the track might give some teams a glimmer of hope, but they definitely shouldn't be getting their hopes up. That isn't stopping Mercedes from getting optimistic about their chances this weekend, as they think the track layout may help their car. They were nowhere near the front in Monza, finishing 5th and 6th, but completely out of the fight for the podium. Monza is almost a complete contrast to the streets of Singapore though, which relies more on high downforce and mechanical grip. There is a reason to think that the car will work better, and that is because Singapore is a maximum downforce circuit, explained Mercedes trackside engineering director Andrew Chauvelin. Our performance at the high downforce tracks, like at Barcelona, Budapest and even Zandvoort, the car was working well, and we've had pretty strong performance. Mercedes aren't the only car that prefers a high downforce track though. Mercedes' 2 customers, McLaren and Aston Martin, will both be very happy with a high downforce track. McLaren were held back by poor strategy in Zandvoort, the last high downforce race, but Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso picked up 2nd place and the fastest lap, while Mercedes was 6th and 17th. To the disappointment of these teams that prefer a high downforce track, there have been some necessary changes made to a circuit that is often referred to as the most physically challenging of the entire calendar. Although it has some straights that are relatively long, the right-angle corners and sheer number of turns mean the average speed at Marina Bay has always been low in Formula 1 terms. And a low average speed means it takes a lot longer to complete the race distance, so it's not uncommon to see the 2-hour time limit coming into play, or races at least getting within 10 minutes of it, and being the longest of the season whether there were interruptions or not. In fact, the sweltering temperatures and strength-sapping humidity aside, interruptions are welcomed by the drivers who can get a breather that they otherwise wouldn't be able to enjoy. If enjoy is the right word when you're still sweating out up to 4 kilograms of your body weight. This year though, the track will be a little lighter on the corners to the delight of the drivers and the Red Bull team. Due to construction work, the sequence of 4 near 90-degree corners towards the end of the lap, which led the track under a grandstand, has been removed for this year's race. In its place is a new, longer straight section that leads from the gentle left-hander at turn 15 to the tight right-hander at what used to be turn 20, but is now turn 16. As well as creating a much quicker lap time, the changes reduce the demand on brakes and will also help drivers to keep the tyres alive over a full lap. The Haas team's prayers have been answered with this change as they continue to struggle with tyre and brake temperatures. Aston Martin Performance Director Tom McCullough gave some insight into what the changes would mean for the teams. Normally what happened was by the end of the lap, because there was not a lot of recovery time for the tyres, your rears in particular were absolutely stinking hot on the old layout. What this will do is allow them to cool a bit and your tyres won't be as bad in the last few corners. So actually, it makes life easier I think from the tyre side. You are still going to be probably at max downforce around the circuit due to everything else. That's not going to really change too much. A quick look at the new track makes me think that Tom might not be telling the whole truth about the amount of downforce the teams will want at the track. The lap time is going to be reduced by up to 8 seconds in qualifying trim because drivers will now be flat out from exiting turn 14 to braking for what was previously turn 20, but is now turn 16. That long straight is going to create a new overtaking spot that the teams will want to make use of if they can. If they plan on doing that, max downforce may not be the way to go. Alpine driver Esteban Ocon spoke about the new turn 16 overtaking opportunity. That was very good news, the Frenchman said of the changes. On the track that you don't necessarily enjoy so much driving around, for them to change it is very good news. Hopefully it'll help overtaking, which was impossible before. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to get closer behind, and that's going to change a lot of things. While recording this, there isn't any information on whether or not there will be a DRS zone on the straight, though by the time you're watching, there might be. If there is, Red Bull will be very happy, and if there isn't, they'll probably still be pretty happy. A long straight means they can flex their aero efficiency muscles, making Max Verstappen's life easy if he does have a tough qualifying. Not great news for Mercedes, though probably not bad enough news that they won't score the required points to deny Red Bull the Constructors' Championship for this weekend at least. So now we know what the track changes mean for the cars and the potential pecking order of the weekend. What does it mean for the drivers? Well, it's still going to be over 30 degrees all weekend, so they aren't going to be having an easy weekend. But the roughly 8 seconds of lap time lost by the removal of 4 corners means they will be racing for just over 8 minutes less than normal, which is nice. The reduction in corners means less lateral cornering G-force applied to them over the course of the race, which means less work for their bodies, which again is nice. Are they still going to be losing the best part of 4 kilograms in sweat? Probably not, according to Kevin Magnussen. It's probably going to make it slightly less demanding physically. It's going to be faster, so it's probably going to last for a shorter time, so we'll lose less liquid. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Are you excited to see more overtaking with the changes to the track? And do you think anyone has a chance at beating Red Bull this weekend? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.